This is the program that shows you the side of police chase videos they didn't want you to see. Bungled arrests, kamikaze crooks, and cop-based carnage of all kinds. Welcome to Cops Uncut, the real car crash TV.
On my way. Car's on fire.
Coming up on Cops Uncut. A crim takes a cop car for a cruise. This foolish car thief starts a bank raid by accident. And this pistol-packing police person shoots his load. For car thieves, stealing a police cruiser is perhaps the holy grail of Grand Theft Auto. In fact, the stolen cop car ahead was nicked from right under the noses of duty officers at the Logan County Sheriff's Department, Ohio. Now the red-faced cops want their property back. But in his four-wheeled police disguise, the crook weaves effortlessly through the traffic. He's obviously becoming quite accustomed to how other drivers move out of his way. So when one doesn't, the chase comes to rather an abrupt end. Cops leap in from all sides, guns akimbo, to arrest the suspect. Sadly, it appears they're all too busy to help this poor old guy here, the driver of the car that got a high-speed rear ending. He looks like he could do with some serious attention, but no one else seems particularly interested. He totters around for a bit and then just walks off, checking himself into the nearest hospital. As far as the cops are concerned, it's another job well done. The stolen cruiser might be smashed into several pieces, but at least it's back in police custody, along with the crook who nicked it. All of which calls for a slap-up celebration at the nearest donut shack.
On my way.
The windscreen you're currently looking through belongs to the vehicle of one Deputy Phil Humphries, cream of the Alabama Police Department. When Phil Humphries catches his crooks, he likes to go that extra mile to humiliate them by putting them on camera. He turns his dashboard camera around 180 degrees for a unique perspective of the action inside the car.
You're also, in my opinion, you're intoxicated. How much you had to drink tonight?
Although perhaps not the most photogenic video star himself, Humphries' distinctive approach, which he likes to call his confession box, provides a great opportunity for crooks to look stupid on camera. Perhaps that's why he uses the technique again and again. Grizzly Adams here is the latest guest star in the Humphries hot seat. He's been arrested for a catalogue of misdemeanors, including drunk driving and resisting arrest. But his capture has involved a rather heavy dose of pepper spray, and the mace seems to have had a rather unpleasant effect on the suspect's sinuses. Blinded, miserable and dripping with mucus, what this chap needs more than anything in the world right now is a man-sized tissue. But his earlier misbehaviour has clearly earned him a place in Deputy Humphries' bad books. And when the officer returns to the car, he has little time for his snot-ridden suspect's woes.
Officer, please. I don't bargain with you. You shit all over the place, I don't bargain with you. Our talks are done.
The guy has obviously rubbed Humph up the wrong way, and the trooper wants a full explanation for his confession cam collection.
Because you maced me. I maced you because you didn't do what I told you to do 5 times. I told you before I did it I was going to mace you if you didn't do it, didn't I? You said back up. I said if you don't do what I say, I'm going to spray this chemical mace in your face. You had fair warning that was coming. Does that count?
But as the suspect's confusion continues, it emerges that mucus may not be the only disgusting discharge involved.
Yes, it does. Yes, sir, it does.
Please wipe my face off, sir.
I'm not touching your face. You have human feces on your face.
I do not.
You do. You've rolled around and shit on the ground over here where you shit on yourself all over the parking lot where you ran from it.
Well, I wouldn't have shit on myself if you wouldn't have maced me.
And I wouldn't have maced you if you'd have done what you were told to do.
As a token of his appreciation, the guy leaves Humphries a little present on the back seat. While Humph goes to check some details with the other officers, the burly bogeyman decides to go for broke and fakes a heart attack.
Officer, please, I'm sorry, please. I need to talk to you, please.
But our deputy has no interest in the man's amateur dramatics, so Snotnose tries to appeal to the viewers back home.
Hello, camera. I can't breathe.
Left alone again, the suspect runs through a whole range of emotions, from anger to confusion,
What happened?
and finally regret.
I could have got away.
But he didn't get away. Instead, he got a full face of mace, and worse,
You have human feces on your face.
and landed himself a starring role in Deputy Humphries' latest police video nasty.
Hello, camera.
Still to come, this ex-cop finds himself on the receiving end of the law. And incompetent cops can't stop this guy, so he stops himself.
Taking off again.
How to get arrested. It's time for our regular guide to getting yourself stopped by the cops. If you want to make 100% sure that the police notice you've committed a crime, then try and be as obviously illegal as you can at all times. Car thieves, for instance, should always try and commit as many outrageous traffic felonies as they can on the drive home from the scene of the crime. For starters, you could take the opportunity to test out the speed capabilities of the vehicle you've just nicked. And if doing 120 in a 50-mile-an-hour zone isn't enough, you could always try your hand at a few amusing illegal stunts. Those with a death wish will no doubt be drawn to the swerving through traffic at ludicrously high speeds trick. This largely consists of swerving through traffic at ludicrously high speeds, although preposterous and psychotically high speeds are also acceptable. Extra points will be awarded to any particularly insane maneuvers, such as overtaking vehicles with millimeters to spare. Naturally, the police will use all the cunning at their disposal to try and stop your vehicle. They might, for example, throw a spike stick vaguely in your direction in an attempt to blow out your tires. But if they're not very good, then you might have to offer them a bit of added encouragement by running your own car off the road and almost crashing into street furniture, such as this road sign. Now that your tyres are nice and muddy from that off-roading, you can really make sure you wind up the officers in the car behind by showering their windscreen with crap. Although it might take some slower cops a few moments to realise the glass is actually dirty. Remember, the best way of getting yourself caught by the cops is to ditch your car altogether and run off on foot. At this point, you'll have lost all of your original speed advantage, posing the question, why steal the car in the first place? But you can at least rest safe in the knowledge that you've had a great day out, and you'll be spending the night in a nice warm cell, all at the taxpayer's expense. Most criminals are stopped for driving too fast, but this car has been stopped for driving too slowly. And the most likely reason the driver is way under the limit in terms of speed is that he's way over the limit in terms of booze. To confirm their suspicions, the officers carry out a series of highly scientific tests. First comes the trouser test. Now it's time for a spot of Watch the Birdie. And finally the straight line test, at which point the man just seems to give up. He starts to explain why leg-related activities are not his strong point.
Problems with your leg?
And all of a sudden it becomes clear that the cops probably won't be needing any more drunk tests tonight. With his pants around his knees and his todger flapping in the cool night air, the police have seen enough. So it's back up with the trousers and on with the cuffs. And the happy stripper is carted straight off to the drunk tank. This slow coach just couldn't walk the walk. And when he drops his trousers, this guy proves that the naked truth is occasionally just too much to bear.
Pull your pants up.
260 at the corner.
On my way.
Columbus, Ohio, and we're just about to witness the world's first unintentional bank raid. The cops are trying to pull over the guy in the Jeep in front. At this point, they've no idea that the car is stolen. All they want to do is tell the driver to put his headlights on. Sadly for the car thief, running away at speeds of up to 90 miles an hour only serves to alert the cops that there might be something more suspicious going on. The runaway takes what he thinks is the perfect escape route, but instead ends up ploughing headlong through a brick wall. To cap it all, the building that he's crashed into is, in fact, a bank, so the criminal has unwittingly upgraded himself from car thief to ram raider in one easy leap. The pursuing officer drives up to the scene of the crash and walks around looking slightly hopeless. Gingerly, he attempts to make contact with the suspect underneath all the rubble, but soon realizes that it's probably too late to start ticking him off about his headlights. Ironically, if he'd had his lights switched on, the crook would have probably seen this coming. Instead, he went way over the top. And now someone needs to make an emergency bank withdrawal. Coming up after the break on Cops Uncut, Suicidal Dave's bad chair day gets worse. And this joyrider loses points for concentration.
260 at the corner.
On my way.
In Cops Uncut Part 2, this dog-wielding domestic nuisance gets down, and our man Humphries continues his own unique style of policing. Over to Texas now for some trigger-happy TV. This hillbilly and his friend have been stopped by the cops for various driving offences. Things appear to be going okay, but all of a sudden the second officer and the suspect behind start brawling.
Don't move, lady.
Only after he's unloaded his entire clip in the direction of the fleeing man's back does the trooper head off in pursuit, at which point we can hear a third female officer making the capture off camera.
Better drop it. Get down on the ground. Get down on the ground.
But what exactly provoked the cop to use lethal force? In this slow-motion replay of the earlier struggle, we can clearly see the second thug making a brazen attempt to relieve the officer of his sidearm. So, the cop's attitude is, if he wants the gun so badly, then let him have it. Amazingly, the cop manages to miss with every single shot, but it's scary to think how things turn from a civilized discussion to a potentially deadly situation. Messing with the cop's weaponry is clearly a big no-no in the Lone Star State.
Taking off again.
This is Dave. Dave used to be a cop, but tonight we find him moping about the car park outside Big Lots. It turns out that he's been reduced to the lowly status of security guard and his girlfriend has just dumped him. Poor Dave has just hit rock bottom. Luckily, half of the Ohio police force, Dave's former colleagues, are on hand to help him overcome his personal issues. For the time being, though, the cops keep their distance, worried that Dave might try something stupid. From the back of his car, Dave brings out what looks like a baby seat. And inspired by this heart-rending image, his friends decide it's time to shoot Dave with special chalk-filled beanbags. Dave drives off in a cloud of chalk to go and be miserable somewhere else. The cops follow their tragic ex-workmate through the streets of Wycliffe City, but tonight just isn't Dave's night. It turns out even his car is against him. He blows out a tyre in the middle of the highway chase, sending out a spectacular shower of sparks and making him easy prey for the pursuing police. Troopers descend on Dave's disabled vehicle, but they're still cautious. Someone spots what could be a weapon, and the cops back away. The sad figure of a man exits his car once again, but this time there's a gun in his hand. Dave makes what the psychiatrist might call a cry for help. And in reply, the cops let him have it with the beanbags again. Now it's much easier to drag Dave out of his car and give him the great big group hug he so obviously needs. Here's a man who lost it all: his job, his girlfriend, and even control of his vehicle. But luckily, when this ex-cop loses the will to carry on, his ex-colleagues are there to make sure he's full of beans. Still to come, the return of Deputy Phil Humphries. And a 15-year-old turns his mum's Cadillac into a shack.
1050's car's on fire.
260 at the corner. On my way.
In Alabama, the suspected drunk driver has been pelting down the highway at speeds of up to 20 miles an hour, and the police on his tail have ordered him to pull over. But the officer behind the wheel of this cruiser is no ordinary cop. It's Deputy Humphries, the guy who maced the fat bloke in Part 1. Now he's on the prowl for his next video victim. A little further down the road, an ambush has been set up. You can just make out the second police car here. With two cars working as a team, Humphries and friend try to box in the swerving Chevy. The other cruiser even makes contact with the car as they force the driver to turn onto a side road. Humphries is just itching to get this guy in the back seat for a spot of confession cam action. But the suspect isn't interested in becoming the deputy's latest video star and tries to make a break for it. He off-roads onto the central reservation. Hump, however, sticks doggedly to his tail as he drives through a ditch. Despite driving the wrong way down the highway, Humphries attempts first contact. But there's not quite enough welly to do much damage. So as the squad cars hurry to reassemble their box, the deputy spots the ideal pit moment. Now it's time for Humphries to jump in with his gun. The suspect doesn't want to get out of his car, but the deputy twists his arm. Opening the door, he pulls the man out of the car, gets him onto the ground, and then sits on him. The bloke won't be going anywhere in a hurry. Humphries is constantly on the lookout for new talent and always likes to put on a good show. He rams this drunk driver once, twice, and then once more for good measure. And when he eventually captures his suspect, Humphries makes sure he feels the full weight of the law. The police negotiator at the scene of this domestic disturbance has given the suspect every chance to surrender. But this neighbour from hell is accompanied by a large, ferocious dog, which he obviously intends to use to aid his escape. Straining to control his mastiff, the man motions for the officers to fall back. But instead, the order is given for the cops to move in, and the man is taken out by an amazing flying tackle. It's a smackdown, and the crowd goes wild. Let's take a look at that tackle again. The suspect doesn't know which way to run. He hops to the left to try and avoid the trooper charging at him from the right. But the real danger comes from the other side, where an ex-high school football star throws his full weight into the suspect and knocks him flat. Several other officers celebrate their team's victory by jumping on top of each other. This domestic bully is obviously on the losing side, and there's no doubt who has the biggest tackle. But not even this cop has the balls to take on the dog. Driving at stupidly slow speeds is usually a sign that someone is either very drunk or very old. Either way, the police officer wants a quick word with the snail-like driver of the pink Cadillac ahead.
It's an elderly person. I don't know if they've even seen my lights yet or not. But...
So far, however, the guy in front seems happy to just ignore the trooper altogether.
Turning right on Honeysuckle.
Until suddenly...
All right, Central, they're picking up the pace on me now. I don't know if they're trying to get away or what.
The caddy ratchets up the speed a notch or two. Maybe this guy's not so senile after all. This straight stretch gives him a golden opportunity to show off his V8 engine and put some space between himself and the cop.
10-4, they're trying to get away from me now. We're headed back north on Richmond Road, pretty high rate of speed. They're leaving me. I can't keep up with them.
For a moment, it looks as if nothing can stop the Cadillac from getting away. Except then something does. A telegraph pole. It turns out that the guy in this wreck isn't even drunk, and he certainly isn't elderly. In fact, the driver is just a 15-year-old kid who stole his own mother's car and took it for a joyride.
1050 Central, 1050.
Help soon arrives in the shape of a fire truck and an ambulance, and the boy racer is whisked off to hospital where doctors are thankfully able to put this kid back together. This young man manages to survive a police chase, a high-speed collision, and even a blazing inferno.
1050, car's on fire.
But we don't much fancy his chances when his mum finds out he's nicked her prize pink caddy and wrapped it round a telegraph pole.
60 at the corner.
On my way.
So for those of you who have been paying attention today, what have we learnt? We've learned a dose of pepper spray is not the best thing for a runny nose, that insane jump bonuses don't exist outside video games, the police will not necessarily be impressed by the contents of your pants, and that Deputy Phil Humphries is not a man to cross or get sat on by. Be careful out there.